What happens when the world's most famous, shy girl decides to burn down the pedestal we built for her? Body, good evening. In the volatile world of digital stardom, few names carry the weight of a sudden, earth-shattering debut like Courtney Hadwin. We all remember the 2018 footage. A trembling 13-year-old walking onto the world's biggest stage, seemingly terrified of her own shadow, only to unleash a vocal performance so primal it felt like a glitch in the Matrix. That single moment didn't just earn her a golden buzzer. It created a global expectation that would become a psychological cage for the next 8 years. For nearly a decade, the public has been obsessed with the reincarnation narrative, forcing a teenager to carry the ghost of Janis Joplin on her back while she was still trying to figure out her own identity. But as we move through 2026, the investigative trail reveals that the girl we thought we knew was actually a carefully constructed facade, or perhaps a version of herself she had to outgrow to survive. Tonight, we are peeling back the layers of the Hadwin phenomenon. We aren't just looking at the viral numbers or the talent show trophies. We are looking at a calculated disappearance and a subsequent rebirth that has completely redefined what it means to be an underrated talent in the modern age. The transition from a novelty act to a legitimate rock sovereign wasn't an accident. It was a rebellion against a system that tried to monetize her soul before she was old enough to vote. As we dive into the archives of her lost years, you'll see that the silence wasn't a sign of failure, but a tactical retreat. This isn't just a music review. It's a report on the evolution of an artist who refused to be a museum piece for the entertainment industry. But as our investigation found, the road to 2026 was paved with obstacles that nearly silenced that legendary voice forever. The industry didn't want a new artist. They wanted a ghost, and they were willing to pay millions to keep her haunted. Body, following her initial explosion into the mainstream, Courtney was immediately funneled into what industry insiders call the nostalgia pipeline. This is a lucrative but dangerous territory where young performers are encouraged to mimic the legends of the past rather than innovate. Our reporting suggests that in the years following her television success, Hadwin was under immense pressure to maintain the retro aesthetic, the fringe jackets, the 60s growl, and the covers of songs written decades before she was born. While the checks were clearing and the views were climbing into the hundreds of millions, a disconnect was forming. Sources close to the production teams at the time describe a young woman who was becoming increasingly frustrated with being a tribute act. The controversy here isn't about her talent, but about the ethics of talent management. How do you market a prodigy without stripping away their humanity? The new Janis label became a marketing hook that effectively buried the old Courtney. In the high-stakes world of major label contracts, she was a product with a preset shelf life. If she didn't deliver that specific brand of vintage soul, the machine would stop turning. This created a silent tension that most fans never saw. While the public saw a rising star, those behind the scenes saw a teenager struggling under the weight of a legacy that wasn't hers to carry. It was a golden shackling of a career that had barely begun. The labels wanted a safe, predictable throwback, but Courtney was beginning to experiment with sounds that were far more aggressive, dark, and unconventional. This friction between corporate expectation and artistic reality led to a period of stagnation that many mistook for a decline. However, our investigation into the 2026 Miss Jagged sessions shows that this was exactly the moment she began plotting her escape from the nostalgia trap. But before she could move forward, she had to face the reality of a career that was seemingly slipping through her fingers. When a superstar goes silent for years, it's rarely because they've run out of things to say. It's usually because they've been silenced. Body, between 2022 and late 2025, the digital trail for Courtney Hadwin went cold. In an era where daily engagement is the currency of survival, her absence was deafening. This led to a wave of speculation that threatened to overshadow her talent. Rumors began to circulate in online forums about health crises, legal battles with management, and even claims that she had offed her own career due to the pressure. We've looked into these claims, and while many were baseless internet fodder, there was a grain of truth regarding her struggle with the contractual prison of major labels. The controversy surrounding her disappearance centers on a common industry practice where artists are kept in a state of developmental hell, unable to release new music but legally barred from seeking other opportunities. Our reports indicate that Courtney used this period of forced silence to undergo a radical internal shift. She wasn't just sitting around. She was studying the greats of the independent scene, learning the business side of the industry, and perfecting a new vocal style that would distance her from the screaming teen trope. The speculation that she had lost her passion was far from the truth. She was actually protecting it. This incubation period is what many critics now point to as the reason for her 2026 dominance. She didn't just come back. She came back with a foundation that was unshakable. However, during those dark years, the fear among her fanbase was palpable. Was she another casualty of the reality TV machine? Would she become a "where are they now" punchline? The answer came not in a press release, but in a series of underground performances that signaled the end of the old Courtney and the birth of a rock monster. What she was building in the dark would eventually bring her into the light in a way that left the industry executives who doubted her absolutely stunned. In 2026, the most dangerous thing an artist can do is tell a major record label no. And that's exactly where Courtney's real story begins. Body, the release of her debut album, Miss Jagged, marked a formal declaration of independence. Our analysis of the production credits reveals something shocking for an artist of her caliber. She leaned away from the big-name, hitmaker producers, and instead collaborated with a tight-knit circle of underground rock innovators. This was a direct middle finger to the polished, radio-ready sound that had been pushed on her since she was 13. The 2026 rock monster persona isn't just a costume. It's a manifestation of years of suppressed creative energy. In this new era, she has embraced a dark, avant-garde aesthetic that blends high fashion with gritty, street-level rock and roll. Investigative reports into her recent business dealings suggest that she intentionally opted for a path that offered less immediate mainstream money in exchange for total creative control. This decision sparked controversy within the industry, with some calling it career suicide, while others hailed it as a blueprint for the future of music. She began touring small, iconic venues, the kind of places where the walls sweat and the sound is raw. This wasn't the path of a reality star seeking a Vegas residency. It was the path of a musician seeking credibility. The results have been undeniable. Her 2026 UK tour has become the stuff of legend, with tickets selling out in minutes despite minimal traditional advertising. She has bypassed the gatekeepers entirely, using social media and direct fan engagement to build a cult following that is more loyal than any mainstream audience. By refusing to play the game, she won the game. But as our technical analysis shows, it wasn't just her business model that changed. It was the very physics of her voice. Experts used to worry she was destroying her vocal cords. Now, they're studying her as a master of calculated chaos. Body, one of the most persistent controversies throughout Courtney's career has been the technical safety of her singing style. In her early years, vocal coaches on YouTube and in the media frequently expressed concern that her screaming would lead to permanent damage or the need for surgery. However, as we look at her 2026 performances, those fears have been thoroughly debunked. Our technical report on her current vocal health shows an artist who has mastered the art of distortion without destruction. She has transitioned from a raw, intuitive singer to a technical powerhouse who understands the mechanics of the human voice. She uses a specific guttural technique, often found in heavy metal and experimental jazz, that allows her to produce those signature, shredded notes without straining her physical cords. This evolution is what makes her the most underrated talent of 2026. While other singers rely on pitch correction and digital layers, Courtney's live sets are a masterclass in vocal athletics. There is a sense of primal chaos in her delivery that feels dangerous, yet it is executed with the precision of a surgeon. This shift has forced the industry to reevaluate her not as a natural freak of nature, but as a dedicated student of the craft. Her ability to pivot from a whisper to a roar in a single heartbeat has become her sonic trademark. It's a level of control that few veteran rockers ever achieve, let alone someone in their early 20s. This vocal maturity is the engine driving her 2026 success, and it's the reason why she's finally being taken seriously by the old guard of rock and roll. But despite the technical mastery, there are still those who question her intensity. If the music industry is a machine designed to grind down individuality, Courtney Hadwin is the wrench in the gears. Body, as we conclude our report on the state of Courtney Hadwin in 2026, the data points to one undeniable conclusion. She is the most significant reclamation project in entertainment history. She took a narrative that was written for her by television producers and burned it to the ground to write her own. The controversy surrounding her darker turn has largely faded, replaced by a deep respect for her tenacity. She has become a symbol for young artists everywhere who are afraid of being pigeonholed by their early success. Her story is a warning to labels and a beacon to creators. By surviving the Golden Buzzer curse, she has proven that a viral moment doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be the prologue. The "where are they now" questions have been answered with a thunderous "right here" and better than ever. She is currently preparing for a 2027 international stadium tour, but insiders say she is keeping the production gritty and authentic, refusing to give in to the pyrotechnic distractions of modern pop tour. She remains an enigma, a girl who was once too shy to speak, now commanding thousands with a single note. As we look toward the future, the question isn't whether Courtney Hadwin will stay relevant, but whether the industry can handle an artist who truly doesn't need them. She has transcended the talent show circuit to become something far more rare, a legitimate, independent rock icon. The most underrated talent of AGT isn't a girl anymore. She's a force of nature that the world is only just beginning to understand. The Hadwin files remain open, but one thing is certain: the silence is over, and the real music has just begun.